the gun Germany called inhumane, and every dirty war since has quietly relied on. In World War I, after artillery machine guns and gas had already killed millions, Germany suddenly declared the shotgun an unacceptable weapon. Why? Because it was inhumane, or because it struck directly at a deadly weak point in German tactics in tight spaces. In this video, we're going to move from the mud of the trenches to the desks of the generals to uncover the dark reason behind that hatred. Before a shotgun became a firearm in the hands of a soldier or a hunter, it was once an entire cannon. On the battlefields of the 17th and 18th centuries, when infantry still formed up in dense ranks and marched forward through clouds of musket smoke, generals quickly realized a cold truth. If every gun only fired a single ball, it was very hard to break a solid block of men. So they came up with a simple but chillingly effective idea: cram the cannon full of lead balls, scrap metal, even lengths of chain nails and stones, and fire it all in one blast. That kind of round was known as Grapeshot, or canister cluster, shot canister shot. But in essence, it was a giant shotgun hurling hundreds of pieces of metal in an instant. At close range, a single discharge could wipe out an entire section of neatly formed ranks. For the men standing on the receiving end, this wasn't a tactical symbol on a map, it was a storm of metal rushing toward them. And then, as a very natural next step, someone asked the question, if a cannon fired like that is so effective, why not make a handheld version? From that thought, the blunderbuss was born, the weapon many later called the ancestor of the modern shotgun. It was a short-barreled gun with a large bore and a flared muzzle, ready to swallow almost anything as ammo lead shot metal scraps, stones scooped up off the ground. On cramped ship decks and narrow stairwells at doorways and hand-to-hand assaults, the blunderbuss outperformed long single-shot muskets and rifles. In those places, nobody needed to hit a tiny point hundreds of meters away. What they needed was to stop the enemy rushing straight at them. But times changed. As rifled barrels appeared, and new bullets flew straighter, hit harder, and stayed accurate at long ranges, armies shifted towards formations that could hit the enemy long before he ever got close. The shotgun, once a nightmare at close quarters, was gradually pushed out of the regular front line and relegated to a humbler role, hunting civilian self-defense and waiting for different wars, different battlefields, where distance would once again become a matter of life and death. By the late 19th century, it seemed the shotgun had been pushed off the battlefield, reduced to the role of a hunting tool or a farm guardian. But then a new generation of shotguns appeared, repeating guns loaded by lever or by pump, and quietly opened a second age for this supposedly outdated weapon. One of the most iconic was the Winchester Model 1897, designed by the genius John Browning for the civilian market. On paper, it was just a gun for hunters and frontiersmen. But history pulled it into a very different place: the jungles of the Philippines. The Philippine-American War looked nothing like the textbook European campaigns American officers had studied. Instead of wide plains and neatly formed ranks, they walked into a world of dense jungle, tiny villages, narrow paths, and lines of sight measured in mere tens of meters. Here, the long bolt-action rifle, slow to cycle, so admired on the parade ground, suddenly became clumsy. Before a soldier could work the bolt fully, his opponent, the stubborn Moro fighters, might already be charging at a distance where nobody had time to take a careful textbook shot. At that range, long-range accuracy didn't matter much anymore. What mattered was who reacted faster, who got the first burst of fire out. And that's when the shotgun spoke up. A Model 1897 could be shouldered very quickly, and with rapid pulls of the pump blasts of shot spread out at extremely close range enough to stop a charge just a few paces away. For soldiers patrolling in the jungle, guarding villages, or running into sudden contact at night, the shotgun wasn't some exotic weapon. It was the tool that helped them survive those short, decisive moments when fate was decided. Among those who saw this with his own eyes was a man older generations know very well, John J. Pershing. Before he became commander of the American Expeditionary Forces in Europe, he commanded in the Philippines and saw firsthand how a shotgun could change the local balance of power at close ranges. That lesson stuck deep. Wherever war narrowed down into corridors, alleyways, and trenches, the shotgun was anything but obsolete. The seed of the idea had been planted in the Philippine jungle. If one day Europe also turned into a maze of close-quarter combat, this gun looked down on during drill would march back to the front line. In World War I, the problem wasn't that the rifle was weak, it was that it was in the wrong place. Those bolt-action rifles with effective ranges of 1,000 yards so proudly shown off on the parade ground suddenly looked awkward in a world where two trench lines could be closer than a grenade throw. Down there, a 1-meter-long rifle with a fixed bayonet trying to twist and turn through mud and tight corners was almost a punishment for the man carrying it. And this is when the American shotgun was originally brought to Europe, just to guard prisoners, then quietly sliding toward the front line. When the Winchester M97 had its barrel shortened, a heat shield added a bayonet lug fitted, and was fed with 12-gauge buckshot, it stopped being a hunting gun and became a tool built to do one thing: sweep a trench clean at a distance of a few meters. The slam fire feature holds down the trigger, and the gun fires every time you rack the pump, turned every soldier carrying an M97 into a walking nightmare. Germany's protest on humanitarian grounds only exposed an uncomfortable truth. They weren't afraid of the concept. They were afraid of the result. In the cramped world of the trenches, the shotgun hit a weakness that the rifle could never cover. In World War II, the story of the shotgun started off rather lukewarm. Early on, the US military didn't treat it as a main combat weapon. It was seen as a backup for military police guards and tasks where serious weapons like rifles and machine guns were the real stars. But as the war expanded into the Pacific, the realities of the battlefield forced a rethink. Small islands, jungles twisted into mazes, tunnels, bunkers, and networks of caves that was not the playground for long-range doctrine. It was a world of sudden encounters at a few steps' distance. The enemy were Japanese units who fought to the last breath, launched night attacks, and emerged from hidden tunnels just when American troops thought an area was secure. In that environment, the shotgun paired with the flamethrower became an almost perfect duo for clearing fortifications and repelling surprise assaults. In Europe, the shotgun played only a supporting role in urban combat, house-to-house, room-to-room fighting. But in the Pacific, it truly stepped onto center stage as a survival tool at distances where all the elegant theories gave way to human reflex and raw nerve. In those Cold Wars that ran hot on the ground like Korea and Vietnam, the shotgun was no longer the controversial weapon of European trench warfare. It had become a brutally practical survival tool. Light compact Ithaca Model 37s with smooth, easy feeding were carried by U.S. infantry moving through jungles and villages, where engagement ranges were measured in meters, not kilometers. At those distances, a blast that spread multiple pellets had a very different meaning from a single rifle bullet. On M48 Patton tanks, the image of a gunner sitting on the engine deck back against the turret, cradling a shotgun to watch for anyone creeping up with mines, or an RPG summed up the nature of this era perfectly. The front line was no longer clear. Danger could come from any tiny corner. And when tank crews loaded beehive round shells packed with thousands of small darts or pellets, the main gun itself effectively turned into a giant shotgun used to sweep the area in front of the tank clean. This wasn't just a technical story. It was the cold answer of modern warfare to the fear of being swarmed at close range. In the post-war era, this is a great place to change the mood before we return to modern battlefields, the same shotgun, but now stepping out of the trenches and into patrol cars, special units, and locked doors. Instead of appearing in the hands of assault troops, it sits in the racks of police cruisers, SWAT teams, and special forces, wearing names that have become standards like the Mossberg 500 or the Benelli M4. From here we get a very clear hook line. The shotgun didn't disappear, it just changed uniforms. Breech loading techniques using specialized rounds show its tool side more than its weapon side fire precisely at locks or hinges, blow the door, and minimize the risk of metal fragments bouncing back into the team. Many veterans of Afghanistan and Iraq will tell you very plainly going house to house without a shotgun feels unsafe. The underbarrel shotgun is another vivid image, like a backup flotation device when the main rifle fails. And when less lethal ammunition appears in beanbags, rubber rounds older viewers will feel the irony the weapon once condemned as brutal in German diplomatic protests is now used to subdue people while reducing the chance of killing them. In today's wars, the thing that worries a soldier most is not always the enemy in the trench opposite, but a very small buzzing sound overhead drones. From FPV kamikaze drones to reconnaissance UAVs, they can carry explosives straight into tanks, armored vehicles, or infantry positions. They can also spot artillery track targets, and some are even wired, so they're almost immune to jamming. The problem is shooting them down is anything but easy. These are small targets moving fast, changing direction constantly, and reaction time is measured in seconds. Hitting one with a 5.56 or 7.62 round is almost like winning the lottery. And so the shotgun, a weapon, long dismissed as cheap crude and not very impressive, suddenly becomes a lifeline. One trigger pull, a whole cloud of pellets goes up, increasing the odds of hitting the drone in that one critical moment. In Ukraine, many units try to have at least one shotgun in every squad, always kept ready in the vehicle. People are experimenting with Skynet 12-gauge net rounds, Kevlar net rounds, even stuffing shotgun-style loads into rifles or mounting shotguns on drones to hunt other drones. The battlefield looks like science fiction, but amid all that technology, one thing has not changed: the shotgun, the old trench broom, now turned into a weapon against the smallest yet most dangerous enemy of the 21st century. For more than 3 centuries, if there's one kind of gun that has quietly walked alongside the history of war, it's the shotgun. It started as grapeshot volleys and crude 17th century blunderbusses, then was pushed off the front line by modern rifles as armies marched into the age of long-range precision fire. But every time war dragged humans back into close quarters, from the jungles of the Philippines and the trenches of World War I to the tiny Pacific Islands and the shattered streets of Korea and Vietnam, the shotgun returned as if it had never gone away. When a kind of peace returned, it moved into the hands of police special units and breaching teams. And today, in the drone-filled, FPV-ridden electronic warfare fields of Ukraine, amid a forest of new technologies, you still find shotguns right where they belong, doing exactly what they're best at. The shotgun has never been a fashionable star. It's what you call in when you need a simple, reliable tool to deal with small, fast, hard-to-hit targets in cramped, chaotic spaces. If you brought a World War I soldier forward in time and showed him the battlefields of today's Ukraine, he would not understand drones or cyber warfare. But the moment he saw a soldier holding a shotgun, he would recognize it instantly. That thing I've carried before.